In the UK, there are 12 million adults with hearing loss greater than 25 decibels. That is 1 in 5 people. In some developing countries, children do not receive schooling, and adults find it hard to find employment. Wherever you are in the world, deafness and hearing impairment can affect speech and the ways you communicate. It can impact on your social life. Feelings of not being included are common for those with hearing loss, leading to social isolation. Which makes you pretty amazing for being here today to find out more. You will make a difference. Thank you. Now let's get started. Hello, my name's Joanne Baker and I am from Emerald Training and People Development Services, and welcome to Hearing Disability Awareness. I'm delighted you're here now because this is such an important subject, so important in fact that the World Health Organization organised our World Hearing Day on the 3rd of March, and on that day I actually did a 45-minute session, and I decided that what I'm going to do is I'm going to replicate that in a podcast, which is what I'm doing now. It will be available to everyone to help you to be more health aware in the workplace. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put up my PowerPoint. I'm conscious that you can't see it, so I'm going to be quite verbal and descriptive in what I'm going to say. I'm going to tell you about my deafness and other stories that attach to it. I'm also going to talk about social model of disability and why that is important. And the social model of disability will help you to make adjustments in the environment, whether it's workplace or the service that you provide, or even if you have family or friends who have hearing disabilities or impairments. I'm also going to talk about the challenges of hearing impairments and hearing loss. And these are things that people just wouldn't think of normally. Maybe you have, but there's simple ways that you can actually make adjustments to make somebody who is hard of hearing life just a little bit more comfortable without being too obvious about it. And we'll also be talking about how you can help that person, as I just said. Now, by the end of the session, you will be able to spot potential problems for those with hearing impairment or disability within the workplace and action a solution. You will also be able to reference the social model of disability when making adjustments within your workplace. So what you're going to be doing effectively is taking the dis out of disability, leaving just ability. So that's really good news. And then you'll be able to communicate effectively, politely, and discreetly with people with hearing impairments or disability. This is about me, myself, and I. Okay. And the reason why I called it that is because the Alzheimer's Society say that if you meet one person with dementia, then you have met one person with dementia. And that could be said for any kind of condition, and that includes hearing disabilities as well. I am one person, so my needs and my desires and how I'm approached will be different to the next person who has hearing disabilities or impairments. So I think it's really important that we try and be as person-centered as we can and treat each person as an individual, because as I said, their needs may be different to the next person's needs as well. Let me tell you about my story. So I have always had problems with my hearing and or my ears rather. And I had numerous operations. I had my adenoids taken out, which is the first kind of operation I remember. And I've had various operations on my ear. Now, basically, at the hospital when I was a child, fully expected to have both ears operated on. They only did the right one, and that's been the least of my problems. My left one, however, has been a bit of a problem child, and I had a major operation when I was 11. I was in hospital for 6 weeks. And then everything seemed to have calmed down. I had another major operation in year 2000. And again, on my left ear, everything seemed to be okay. However, so what prompted me to get my ears sorted out? realised that I'm actually deafer than I was ready to admit. I was living at the time. I was living with in the countryside, and along the lane there was a hedgerow, and the hedgerow had hazelnuts in on. It was a hazelnut hedge. And it was hazelnut season, so I decided to go and pick hazelnuts. So I stepped up on the side and delved into the hedge, and then I stepped back into the road, and a car nearly hit me. In fact, he missed me by a whisker. He just swerved to the other side of the car, and I didn't hear it. I did not hear that car approaching. There was nothing else around me. There was only sort of birdsong. I didn't hear anything. And he just leapt out the car. He was calling me all sorts of names. And I actually don't blame him. All I could say, because I was in so much shock, I said, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't hear you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And it was that point I decided that I should do something about it. So I made an appointment with the GP, who made an appointment with the audiologist, and I went down to the audiologist. And fully expecting to be told that my left ear was worse than ever, and I didn't. After that, I didn't give it much thought. Now, I was really surprised that by the time I had my hearing test, it was found that I was also quite deaf in my right ear. In fact, I was moderate to severely deaf in my right ear, but I was severely to profound in my left ear. So that meant that I had to have hearing aids. Now, I didn't take it very well at all. It's something that obviously I've been trying to avoid. I was in my 40s at the time, because I've had hearing aids for about 11 years now, and I didn't take it, and you know, it was vanity, and honestly, what have I got to be vain about? But it was vanity that stopped me from getting the hearing aids. And if I'd known now what I knew then, I'd probably given myself a bit of a kick and a talking to, because actually, the earlier you get it diagnosed, the more you're able to preserve the hearing at that level for longer. Now, I'm not saying that you'll maintain that hearing forever, but the loss will be less profound in the future. So you have the opportunity, depending on what the problem is, to maintain that level of hearing. Now, I can honestly say I got the hearing aids fitted. I got the actual the aids sort of fixed to my hearing level that I needed, and it changed my life completely, totally, and utterly. I had no idea what I was missing, and in fact, I left the building having them fitted, and I said I'll keep them in. And I could hear, and it was a cold February morning, and it was very icy, and they put salt down to stop people from slipping, and I could hear the crunch of the salt under the soles of my shoes. It was incredible. I went into the car, and oh, that was scary. I could hear everything. So I put the radio on, and one of my favorite tunes came on, and there was a warble in the tune that I hadn't heard before, and it's just incredible. I went to the petrol station to pick up some petrol, and I could even hear the card coming out of the pocket of my purse, the friction sound. And it was just, in that short time, I knew that at that point I made the right decision. However, there were lots of noises I hadn't heard that I found a little bit scary, like the car. And I couldn't really wear the hearing aids in my ears while I was driving because it was just too scary. That was a gradual process. And that's got me into trouble. I'll tell you a bit about that later. The other thing that I could hear was things like the birds, but singing from inside the house, because I lived in the countryside. I could hear the birds from inside the house. I didn't know they were that loud. I honestly didn't. I could hear them outside, but just a bit. To hear them while I was sitting in the lounge was just the most amazing revelation, if you like. It really, really was. It was fantastic. There are other things like the toilet flush. How loud is that? Crisp packets. That's pretty loud. They're awful. And even now they irritate me a bit. But so there are lots of things that happened. About 2-3 weeks after I had the hearing aids fitted, and I'd only just been going out with my partner for about 2-3 months, maybe 4. And I was it was one Saturday morning, and I was standing in the kitchen, and I could hear this noise. And for some reason, it really frightened me. I was rooted to the spot. So called my partner in, and I said, I can hear a noise. And I said, and it's worrying me. So he said, okay. So He went up to the oven and he said, "That's the oven fan." I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I can hear that." And by the way, who knew the fan of the oven was so loud? I didn't have a clue until I got these in. I said, "Yeah, yeah, I can hear that. I can hear that." And he said, "That's the washing machine." I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I can hear the washing machine." And that's the dishwasher. "Yeah, but there's one more sound. There's one more sound." I said, I don't know where it's coming from, and I'm frightened." So he looks around and he goes, "Darling, that's the bread machine." I had no idea the bread machine made so much noise. I thought it was a silent bread machine, but no, not when it's mixing and things like that. So, it's things like that. I had no idea. So it takes about 2, 3 weeks for the brain and the hearing aids to work together, if you like, because the sounds all cooked. And I mean, even then with hearing aids, and it's important to know, hearing aids don't cure the problem; they just help you to hear. They don't cure the problem as to why you have hearing loss. So they are literally aids for hearing, and so that's something to bear in mind as well. So the first 3 weeks, I was pretty tired, pretty knackered, to be honest, because it is exhausting. However, I soon got used to them, and yeah, a couple of things that have happened to me. Um, if you remember back, I told you about taking my hearing aids out when I'm driving the car, because I borrowed an old banger, and it really was an old banger. It did go bang bang. And I used to take my hearing aids out and I put them on my lap as I was driving. And one day I forgot they were on my lap. So I got out the car and they fell onto the road. Well, I found my left one, but I couldn't find my right one. So I thought, well, where is it? It can't just disappear. And there was no drains or anything nearby. So I thought, okay, I'll just pull the car back. So I reversed the car and ran over the hearing aids. It was right under the tire. So I had to go back and say, "I'm so sorry, but I ran over my hearing aids." They didn't seem surprised. I can't be the first one that did it. The other time was, I won't tell you his name, but at the time, my youngest son was living with me, and I had my dog Buster, who's since passed away. And one day, Charlie, let's call him Charlie, did a very loud burp in the bottom. And I went, "Charlie," and he went, "Oh, did you hear that?" I said, "Yeah, and I can smell it as well." And he was like, "Oh," and then it suddenly dawned on me, and I said, "Hang on a minute." And it turns out that he's been doing loud burp in the bottoms that I haven't been able to hear, but could smell. And if I made a comment on it, he says, "Yeah, the dog's just burped in the bottom." And I've been blaming the dog when it was him all along. So he couldn't use that one. So he had to go out the room and do whatever he needed to do. So yeah, it was. So that's just one of the things that I don't, that's happened. Also, I could hear people. I can hear him from behind. So I always used to say, "You can say what you like behind my back, but I can read your lips 20 paces." And that was the thing as well with my hearing loss. It was such a surprise at how awful my hearing was that the audiologist and I had a discussion on this. And basically, what we had agreed on was that my hearing loss was very, very slow over a period of time. And as it was deteriorating, I was adapting and I was lip reading a lot more. And actually, you know what they say about 2020, hindsight being a 2020 vision. I remember watching a television program and there was two people in a pub talking. And as they were talking, someone walked in front of them and I missed that conversation. I missed that part of the conversation. I didn't see it. And so that should have been a red flag for me to do something about it. But at the time, I didn't even think about it as well. So what have I learned? Well, ear canals sweat, which affect the hearing aids. They can give you the whistling feedback, when they get damp. Hearing aid batteries last 1 week only. So if you work in health and social care sector and you're surprised by how often you're having to change the batteries, if you're working with someone that may have dementia who wouldn't be able to communicate that and you see a sudden change of behavior, it's possibly because their hearing aid batteries have run out. But also, they don't run out at the same time or the same day of the week or anything else like that. So I would actually pinpoint a day of the week that you would change the hearing aids as a matter of course. So say Monday at 8 o'clock, every Monday at 8 o'clock, you would change your hearing aid batteries. And I think that you'd be in a really good chance of them not ever running out. Now, hearing aid batteries are free. You usually have a hearing aid battery card that you take, and they date it and say how many packets of batteries they've given you. So they're usually in 2, 4, 6. They're in packs of 6, so they should last for 3 weeks. And so yeah, the other thing I know I found out as well was that your ears lose weight if you lose weight. So when we lose weight, we think about our middles and maybe our faces and things like that. But your ears lose weight as well. And I lost 3.5 stone, and I was getting feedback. My hearing aids were whistling and all sorts going on. And so basically I had to go back, and they said, yeah, it's because you've lost weight. Your ears lose the weight as well. So that's something that I had that I found out during my time with hearing aids. One other thing as well about batteries, your hearing aids actually have hearing aids are connected between the battery and the molds with a tube, with a very flexible tube. Now, I remember going back to the audiologist saying, I think my hearing is getting worse because I can't hear. And he had a look at my hearing aids, and he said, it's because your tube has got hard over time, in about over 2-3 months after the tube that connects the molds and the battery case and the amplifier, if you like, it goes hard, which means that the sound isn't so effective when it goes through. So those tubes has to be flexible. So if you find that you do change hearing aid batteries and the hearing doesn't seem to, it hasn't improved, or they're still saying it's a bit muffled, check the tubes. It could be that they need changing, and they need changing every 2 to 3 months. And also you are more prone to ear infections as well, which means they should be wiped clean every night, washed every night, and dried overnight while you're sleeping. Hearing loss versus deafness. Okay, now hearing is measured in 2 key ways: volume and pitch. When you have a hearing test, a specialist will be trying to find the quietest volumes of sounds that you can hear at different pitches or frequencies. Now, the volume of sound is measured in decibels, and pitch is measured in hertz. Now, I have got variable hearing loss. So in other words, I can hear some pitches better than others. Okay, so I had great delight in going to my father, who always said that I had selective hearing. Now, I said to him, you know what, you're right. I also said, when he was annoying me, I'll switch you off. He didn't have an answer for that either. So yeah, and actually, don't tell him, but when I'm in the car, my partner talks a lot about the morons on the road, blah blah blah. Switch it off because I've heard it all before. But don't tell him. Anyway, so for you to hear sound, it must be above a certain level of decibels. Now, this is known as your hearing threshold. Now, hearing thresholds are categorized as normal, mild, moderate, severe, or profound loss. So if you remember, I said to you, I had moderate to severe hearing loss in the right ear. I had severe to profound loss in the left ear. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, normal hearing, which is 0 to 20 decibels within normal limits, it means you can hear quiet sounds of less than 20 decibels. Okay. Now, if you have mild hearing loss, it means that you can hear between 20 to 40 decibels. So you can hear sounds between 20 and 40 decibels. And typically you might find you have difficulty following speech in noisy situations. If you have moderate hearing loss, between 41 to 70 decibels, you will probably find that you have difficulty following speech. Now, severe hearing loss between 71 and 95 decibels, so you can only hear sounds and pitches between those two figures. Your hearing loss you will have severe difficulty following speech without hearing aids, and profound hearing loss over time, over 95 decibels, means that you would almost certainly need to have hearing aids or cochlear implants. Okay, you may even have to rely on sign language and lip reading as well. So, what are the early signs of hearing loss? So, in some cases, you may recognize signs of hearing loss in someone else before they notice it themselves. Now, research suggests it takes 10 years from the time someone notices they are having hearing loss before they do anything about it. And it's true. I'm pretty positive that it's took me 10 years to come to the terms, and 10 years and being near killed by a car, by the way, to actually do something about my hearing loss. I was aware that it was bad, but I didn't realize how bad it was. And, but I'll go through some of the early signs of hearing loss, and then I'm going to talk to you about how to tackle hearing loss in someone else if you feel that someone else has got hearing loss. Okay, so the early signs of hearing loss is difficulty hearing other people clearly and misunderstanding what they say, especially in group situations, asking people to repeat themselves, listening to music or watching television with volume higher than other people need, finding it difficult to tell which direction the noise come from. Well, even with hearing aids, I have not got a Scooby-Doo where sounds are coming from. Difficulty hearing the telephone or the doorbell. Regularly feeling tired or stressed from having to concentrate while listening. It is when you've got lots of things going around you and you're focusing on that one person, so trying to hear what they're saying, it is quite exhausting, and can be quite stressful. And it's also stressful for the other person as well, because they're trying to get their point across, and you're just not able to understand what they're trying to say, not because you're unintelligent, but because you simply can't hear them. Not hearing other people calling you when you're out of sight, when they're out of sight. So, for example, if I'm sitting in the lounge and someone's calling me from the kitchen, I don't always hear them now with hearing aids, but I certainly couldn't hear them while before hearing aids as well. So the best thing to do is just get into their line of vision as well. So that's some of the things that some of the early signs of hearing loss. Now, if you're aware that your loved one or colleague hearing is not as good as you suspect someone is hard of hearing or has a hearing impairment. The thing is, you can point it out to your blue in your face, but only they have to come to terms with it before they do something about it. Be kind, okay? Be kind. If you feel you need to point it out, do it tactfully and kindly. I know there's not such word as kindly. It is a very, very personal thing. And as I said to you earlier, I think I didn't do anything about it because the thought of wearing hearing aids was just awful, and it was vanity, purely vanity. And it was a stupid thing to not do, not to get something done about. So just be nice, be tactful, and be kind. And that's all I have to say on that. So you now have a rough idea of how things are as the early signs of hearing loss. So you think, actually, I may need to do some adjustments, make some adjustments within the workplace, or it could be within the home, or when you have visitors coming to see you, or even socially when you're picking out places to go, for example. And, because there are some challenges which we'll come to in a moment that people have. I'm going to explain the social model of disability. Now, the social model of disability says that impairment or disability of individuals are not disabling them, but society can be a barrier. Now, on the slide that I showed when I did the session for World Hearing Day, there is an animation of a gentleman sitting in his wheelchair, unable to go up a flight of stairs. Now, let's imagine that he was going for a meeting in a town hall somewhere. Now, he's got up. He's got dressed, he's got washed and dressed, he's had breakfast, he's managed to get into town. Now, at that point, he was not disabled. Under the social model of disability, that's not their disability. The disability is the stairs. It's how the society has not taken into account that he would need a ramp to get him up the stairs. So at that moment, he became disabled. Now, the fact that carers came along and hoisted him out of bed, and they helped him get dressed, they may have helped him get his breakfast as well, is neither here nor there. That's what the social model of disability is all about. It's about helping that person to be as independent as possible and be part of society. So the model believes that disability isn't something that exists inside your body or mind. It's those social barriers that make a person disabled. And taking myself as an example, when I have my hearing aids in, I don't believe I'm disabled. However, there are social situations that are disabling. So, for example, if I'm in a noisy environment, I find it very difficult to converse with people. And I don't always pick up what they're saying. Even now, I mean, I'm a little bit lazier with lip reading because I don't have to do it so much. But even trying to lip read what they're saying, if they're talking really fast and there's all the noise going on around me, I don't always pick things up. So that kind of sort of suggests the way the social model of disability tries to fix things. Now, I fix it myself. In fact, I've just come back from a breakfast meeting, and it's in a restaurant. It's noisy. There's lots of people talking. And when we start doing the networking, I actually spoke to two people, and I said, can we go somewhere quiet so that I can hear you properly? And that's what we did. We went to somewhere that's quieter, and I was able to have a good conversation. So a lot of people with hearing impairments or disabilities, they are pretty self-managing, but there's sometimes when a little bit of thoughtfulness goes a long way. Now, before we go on even further, if you feel that you want to make changes for yourself or for your colleagues or anybody else, it's important to remember that if you're following the social model of disability, impairment and disability are not the same thing. Now, an impairment is a functional difficulty someone experiences in their body or mind. If you have a hearing impairment, you might need sounds to be louder for you to hear them, or you won't be able to hear them at all. Disability is the experience of not being able to take part in society because the barriers you face with your impairment. For example, if a video doesn't have subtitles, then you're not able to follow the video or the film or whatever it is you're with, and you won't be able to interact with your colleagues either. So what are the challenges and barriers for people with hearing disabilities or any disabilities? Some of them are akin to other disabilities as well. And it's important to remember, when I did the course, somebody says, well, why are people not deaf aware? It is one of the barriers, the challenges and barriers. And I kind of sort of defended it a bit, and although I feel I shouldn't have done, deafness is one disability. However, in this country, it affects 20% of the UK population. Now, that's a fifth of the population. And I think that's really sort of telling that perhaps we should be taking more notice of those with hearing impairment and actually making adjustments for them. And perhaps, and also think of the revenue that restaurants are losing from that 20% as well, just because they don't have a quiet place or somewhere that's not well lit. So the main sort of challenges and barriers is that people are not deaf aware. The other one is background noises, and this is interesting that I come back from the breakfast meeting, because after the first one and then the second one, I said I wouldn't do it again because I struggled so hard to hear people. And I thought, but then I thought to myself, well, I need to be responsible for that. If I can't hear people, then I need to ask them to move to a quieter place. So I've actually managed that myself. But background noises. So you imagine you're sitting in a restaurant, okay? That restaurant has wooden floors. So you've got the loud footsteps from the wooden floors. You've got people chattering in the background. You've got crockery and cutlery being clanked about. You may have the coffee machine in the bar. You may even be able to hear the kitchen, and then you've got people sort of asking for orders, and everything's going on around you. And then you have the straw that breaks the camel's back, music. You have music in the background. All that background music, amongst all the other noises and sounds going with it, can actually make or break somebody's experiences in any service, whether it's a retail, whether it's restaurant, whether it's a concert or anything else like that. So not a concert, because that's, you would go for music. I don't know if I said that, but anyway. So so background noise is are one of the barriers as well. Now, as we go along these, I would like you to think how you can overcome that, the barriers in your own workplace as well. The other one that is a bugbear is people covering their mouths while they speak. So if I talk like this, you won't be able to hear me so much. Can you see how my hand actually distorts the sound? I can't see your lips either. And so, if you're talking to someone that's hearing impaired, keep your mouth away. Keep your hand away from your mouth, because that is a serious barrier. So audio, too much noise distorts the hearing. Now, I've already mentioned the restaurant. Too much noise, as in plates, cups, saucers, all those kind of things. It's different to background noise. I remember when I was training once, I was in a new build, and they sort of insulated to the nth degree, so that it's efficient in the winter to keep everyone warm without having to use too much heat. But it's blooming hot in the summer, and there was no air conditioning. And I was on the top floor, so of course all the heat went up there. So that meant I had a fan going. I also had the windows open, and the doorbell to the main building was a supported living building. Was up in that office as well, because it was a large office that they doubled up as a training room. So they had that. And what else? Oh, roadworks outside as well. So I had the doorbell going off, the phone going off, I had roadworks going on outside, I had the fan going on in the background. Then there was about 3 or 4 gardeners who decided, oh, lovely day, I'll mow the lawn as well. And just as I thought that things couldn't get worse, they had builders in, sort of drilling holes in the side of the building. And this was on top of me trying to train and listen to what the learners were trying to say to me. I can honestly say I have never felt so exhausted as I did at the end of that day. And it felt like I had walked through treacle all day. So lots of noise, and it does distort the hearing. I mean, I had real difficulty being able to hear what the learners say as well. Hearing impairments or deafness leads to social isolation. Now, if you look back to when I said I was at a networking experience, and I was doing breakfast meetings and networking, and I just couldn't hear anyone. It became too stressful, and I went back. I said, I'm never going to do that again. You can actually see how people can become more reclusive, because they don't want to get back into situations where it's not just hard work, but it's embarrassing as well. It's not, there's no dignity in not being able to hear people. And So, and what that also means is that at work, if people are not deaf aware, and you find that you start to sort of step back from the work things, because you can't collaborate with people, and that's, so you're not putting forward your ideas, you're not being able to communicate your ideas, because you're not being included as much, because you either can't hear, or that the environment that these collaborations are taking place are not conducive to that person who's unable to hear. A lot of people with hearing impairments or deafness have said that finding employment is very, very difficult as well. People don't seem to understand, and that's part of you have sort of social attitudes as well, which can act as a barrier. Thinking deaf is unintelligent. We are not unintelligent. Well, I'm not the brightest spark in the, I don't know, but I may not be the brightest, but I'm certainly not thick. And I know what I know, and that's good. But I think the problem is that if somebody who is hard of hearing, and I've done it myself, they're listening to people and they're not able to hear them, so they just nod. And then if they're laughing, you laugh back with them. So sometimes it looks, and then you might say something random that wasn't part of the conversation. So you totally misconstrued what was saying in the first place. So again, there's a bit of embarrassment there as well. And of course, then people know, oh, she's not really, she's thick, and it's not that. People think it's funny. People think it's funny. It's not funny. I cannot tell you the number of times when I explain to people I'm hard of hearing or I'm deaf, they go, "What? Pardon?" Ha ha ha. They think it's funny. It's not funny, and actually, it's really rude. So don't do it. Don't say pardon when someone says they're deaf, because it's not the first time they'd have heard it. I can guarantee you that. Everyone thinks it's the first time it's been said, but it's not. It's not the first time. It's not original. It's not funny. So please be more respectful if that is you. Hearing aids are a challenge. We can't get them wet. We can't, sometimes they do go wrong. So if they go wrong, the batteries run out at all times as well. Lighting is also an issue as well. When you're talking to someone with hearing impairment and everything, make sure that the room is well lit and that they can see your face, and think about shadows and things. If there's a window and you're talking to someone who is hearing impaired or deaf, just have your back to the no, face the window so that the light can shine onto your face, and that will help them to follow what you're saying. No subtitles on television is another one. All the terrestrial TVs tend to have subtitles, but there are a lot of the, alibis and all those kind of programs. They tend not to have subtitles. Echoey spaces. I can remember training in a old Victorian hall, and it was every step I took, it was wooden floors. Every step I took echoed around the building, and every time I spoke, echoed around the building. It made it very, very hard work. The other thing I find very difficult, and I think a lot of people do anyway, but those that have hearing difficulties find it particularly difficult if they're at a train station, for example, and they can't hear what people are saying. The tannoy, they can't hear the tannoy, and I find that a pretty sort of I find that really hard work, and then I have to try and find someone to find out what exactly it was it said. Is my train delayed, or is there a problem with the train, and so on. The next thing I showed on the presentation was a film, and sadly I can't show it to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play it, and then I'm going to just tell you what was on it. Okay. So this is a guide to some of the ways you can politely and discreetly communicate with a person who has a hearing disability or impairment. Establish preferred communication methods, so don't make assumptions. Because not everyone does sign language, although if you learn A to Z, that would be helpful. Hearing aids pick up all sounds, so it can be difficult for the brain to filter the noises. So choose a quiet place to talk. Face the light when speaking to someone, so they can see your face clearly. Speak clearly, no need to shout, as this could distort your communication rather than help. Keep your hands away from your mouth so other people can see your lips clearly. We've already talked about that. Keep your distance when talking. So take a step back if you need to. If you're too close, you can distort their lip reading. Limiting background noise can improve communication. Have a pen and paper handy in case they ask for it. Simple adjustments by you means we have a great time socially, in work and at home. Some of the aids that you can get are things like flashing doorbells, vibrating alarm clocks. So there's a pad that connects to the alarm clock that you put under your pillow, and when the alarm goes off, it vibrates the pillow and you. Fire safety. This is quite important actually, because a lot of people don't know that your local fire brigade actually do have a service where they come to your home and they risk assess your home, and how safe it is for you, if should there be a fire. So things like smoke detector. Now, I don't know if I will be able to hear the smoke detector while I'm asleep. Luckily, I have a partner, but if he's not here and the house is on fire, will I be able to hear it? Now, the fire brigade, the fire service will come around and they will do like a welfare risk assessment, and they can make sort of suggestions and recommendations as to how you can make your home safer, and sort of fit in with your disability or your age, or whether you're a smoker as well. Bluetooth has been brilliant. Bluetooth, you can actually, a lot of hearing aids are Bluetooth now. In fact, these are, and I can actually go onto the app on my phone and alter the volume, or even alter whether I want to the direction I want the sounds to come from in my hearing aids. People can bring personal amplifiers as well. The other thing is, if you qualify, you can get an assistance dog, a hearing dog for the deaf, and these will be able to tell you if the doorbell goes, when the alarm clock goes, if the smoke alarm goes. But they also have another side to them, is that it does actually get people who are hearing impaired out the house, because obviously they need their daily walks. And that actually starts to get them back into society, and it doesn't they don't feel so cut off from the community, because obviously they see a cute dog. Now, you're not supposed to touch a working dog if they've got their harness on, whether it's for the blind or for the deaf or whatever. If they've got a harness on, you're not really supposed to sort of approach the dog and stroke them because they're working. But actually, a lot of people who have been isolated have found that having a dog has given them the confidence to get back into the community again. So yeah, this is something that's quite important, is an important thing. The other thing is, you can get speech to text apps, and the one I've tested too, and the one that I like the best is Otter speech to text, and you can get it from the app. It's free. You can get 300 minutes free. Now, this is great whether you have a hearing impairment or not, because they actually literally, as you talk, it writes it down in text as well. So if you do have someone that's having difficulty hearing, they can actually get this app, put it down, and they can follow what's going on in the meeting as well. But if you're someone that needs to take minutes from a meeting, just put that down. You don't have to write anything. Otter will do it. Then what it will do, it will save it into a conversation, and you can see everything that was said, and not necessarily who said it, but the paragraphs that it was said in. It even gives you summary keywords as well. So that's just a few of the aids that are available. There are loads out there. So, tips for keeping your hearing safe and looking after your hearing. So please use earplugs in noisy places. A lot of hearing loss is due to prolonged exposure to high sounds, high noises. Check your hearing regularly. Wear your hearing aids if you have hearing aids. I was told, because I didn't bother putting my hearing aids on in the morning until I needed them, but I was told that in order to preserve my hearing the best I can, to put them on at night, take on in the morning, and take them off at night. And see a doctor if you have ear or hearing problems. Don't do what I do and delay it. The thing is, if you are finding yourself you're not hearing as much, if the sooner you get that seen to, the quicker you can maintain that hearing level. And also, it might not be your actual hearing. It could be that you've got a bit of wax in the ear that's plugging up the sound. So, don't avoid going to the GP. Just do it. Don't do what I did and get near killed and all that. Do not put cotton buds, oil, sticks, or pins. Who puts pins in their ears, inside your ears? This is from the World Health Organization, by the way. So I'm just reading off their poster. Do not swim or wash in dirty water, and do not share earphones or earplugs. And don't listen to loud sounds or loud music. Okay. The risk of your hearing being damaged by loud noises depends on how loud the noises are and how long you've been exposed to them. Now, experts agree that continued exposure to noise at or above 85 decibels, which is similar to a lawnmower or loud traffic, can over time cause hearing loss. But there are lots of other reasons for hearing loss, not just sound, but they are one of the main things. So don't have your television, radio, and music on too loud. This is particularly important if you have young children around, because areas are more delicate than in adults. If you can't have a comfortable conversation with someone who is 2 meters, which is about 6.5 feet away from you, turn the volume down, because clearly it's too loud. You can get headphones that block out more outside noise rather than turning up the volume. And you can buy add-ons for your existing headphones that block out more outside noise, or noise cancelling headphones as well. Okay, so we've actually come to the end of our session. I would really like it if you could let me know what you thought of this session, whether you find it useful or not. And I would like to thank you so much for joining me. I hope you found it useful. And get in touch with me. So if you want to get in touch to let me know whether you found it useful, or whether from this you have actually made adjustments for people who are hard of hearing, then do get in touch on info@emeraldtpds.co.uk. That's info@emeraldtpds.co.uk. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of the day.